Hi, my name is Connor Hewlin, and this is my critical assignment for BIO153L. So the objectives for the lab experiment that I've chosen were to, one, identify the structures and functions of the eye, and two, describe the mechanisms of hearing, and lastly, to explain the association between taste and smell. And personally, I enjoyed the smell and taste experiment the most. And I think it's probably because I'm very sensitive to smell and taste, and those two senses activate my brain pretty dramatically. So, with that being said, I'm going to focus on number three, which is explaining the association between taste and smell for this presentation. So, what is the association between taste and smell? Smell and taste are two senses that are very closely linked. The nerves in our noses detect a scent, and the taste buds on our tongues identify the taste. And then these two pieces of input are then simultaneously processed by our brains, which make sense of the input and identify it. So before scent and taste reach the orbitofrontal cortex portion of the brain, our brains simply try to identify what the scent and or taste is. Once this identification happens, the orbitofrontal cortex produces a reward value on the input related to the pleasure, hunger, and satiety of what it's tasting. So for lab results, this particular lab experiment tasked us with dipping cotton swabs into various unknown extracts. And then after dipping the swabs, we plugged our noses and tasted the swab. We then smelled the swab. And at each step in the process, we recorded what each extract tasted and smelled like individually. Then we recorded what they smelled and tasted like together. My data concluded rather uniformly that without the ability to smell, most extracts had a very faint taste, if any. The most distinct and powerful taste when having my nose plugged was the extract that seemed to be comprised of some sort of mint flavor. Unsurprisingly, I observed very little to no taste when just smelling the individual swabs. And when my nose wasn't plugged and each swab was tasted and smelt simultaneously, the results concluded a much more full sensory experience. To continue with the lab results, I think the most impactful piece of knowledge that I gained from this lab is just essentially how each sense is so essential to itself to gain a full sensory experience. So without one sense working to its full capacity, the other sense lost much of its vibrancy. Additionally, this realization cast a new light on the seemingly never-ending feedback cycle between our senses and our brains. And then a couple of systems were in use in order to complete this lab. Firstly, the sensory system, specifically smell and taste. We have the brain system, parietal lobe, orbitofrontal cortex, and the gustatory and olfactory systems within our brain as well. And that concludes my presentation for BIO153L. Thank you very much.